See me all right?
Yep, perfect. Hello and welcome to the two-man power trip of wrestling. I'm your host, JP John Poz. With me today, very special guest, the Wonder Kid himself, the unofficial legend, Mr. Jonny Storm. Johnny, welcome in. How you doing?
How you doing, man? It's been a while since I've heard such an American accent, to be honest with you.
Really, what's been going on? I guess you're just hanging out in the UK for a long time.
Yeah, England, most of Europe and stuff like that. I still get around quite a bit in my old age, or try to.
I love it. What's going on in your world though? Because I know you got a autobiography, the unofficial legend, Jonny Storm, the Wonder Kid, 30 years in professional wrestling.
That's it, mate. 30 years in the business this year, actually. We're in 2025 now. I started writing it about 3 years ago. It was during COVID, and obviously everybody was at home, and I just thought it'd be nice to have something there for when I do finish wrestling, because I don't
Yeah.
want to be, I don't want to just quit one day like so many do, and then not have all these memories and great things that I've done in my career to look back on. So I just started writing it for me, basically, more than anything, just to have it there one day. And as the hours and the days and the weeks progressed and the amount of time I put into it, I started taking it a lot more seriously. And when I finally started dedicating myself to it, I thought, oh, this could be actually a really good book. And first and foremost, it would have been for me to look back on. But then I thought it'd be something that maybe the fans would like. So, yeah, 3 years later, 304 pages, a lot of memories, a lot of reconnections with people over the years, and I think we've come up with a pretty good book.
I love it that this is out there
Thank
because, like you said, unofficial legend, right? I mean, the 30 years in the business, I feel like a lot of people need to be more familiar with you because I remember you from, ROH days, even popping into TNA, maybe a little bit IWA Mid South. I feel like, your journey, obviously, we're in 2025. I'm talking about like the early 2000s when you guys were kind of
yeah,
almost like first on the scene and really exploding and showing the UK talents.
yeah, exactly that. We were at the start of kind of a revolution in a way because there was no internet when I very first started. Do you know what I mean? And then just as it was sort of starting to take hold and the world was opening up with people connecting from, America and England a lot more easily because of the internet, then doors were slowly starting to open. Unfortunately for me, it was never WWF stroke E at that time because of my size. And as we all know, like back in the day, it was very difficult to get into WWE, especially being from England. You could count on your hand like the amount of British wrestlers that went over there, right?
Right.
Made it big. Uh, so I was part of more the revolution of the independent scene, which was coming up at that time, which, like you say, was, the Ring of Honors, the CZWs, and in England, the company called the FWA, promotions like that, who were at the real forefront of it all. That's where I sort of came into my own. And it'd be nice for more people to know a little bit more about my story. And I hope the book will help them with that.
It is like remarkable if you look at it because the British scene wasn't like that big, but then all of a sudden you and Jody Fleisch, it's like who the hell are these guys? And then AJ Styles goes to FWA, and then like the Zebra Kid, people are starting to get like okay, the Zebra Kid guy, all right, but Jonny Storm and Fleisch, so those are the two. Like I feel like you guys were like somebody that really was like, man, these UK guys, they're back. Like there's UK guys that are still great workers out there.
Thank you, mate. Yeah, I mean, again, it was still kind of a closed shop when we started. You hear the stories about it was so hard to get into, and it really is true. I think I found the only school in the country at the time when I started wrestling. It wasn't a reputable school or anything. There's a whole story to it, which is in the book. But we kind of just got lucky that we found that school and the doors, or we got our foot in the door that way. And it wasn't until I left the school that things really started to take off. And that was around the time of the start of the internet stuff. So a lot of it is coincidence and timing to a certain extent.
When you got in, right, and you're saying it's really hard to get in, were you a fan? Like, what kind of led you to wanting to get in to begin with?
Well, it was kind of by chance for me. I never really thought I was going to be a wrestler. I was an absolutely huge fan. growing up, I used to stalk a lot of the WWF wrestlers when they come over to the UK on tours and things like that. Again, there's a few choice pictures in the book which will attest to that. I was just the biggest fan. I'd buy every bit of merchandise. I'd be calling up America on my dad's telephone line and causing big bills buying merchandise. I was finding out the ways to find where the hotel was that the guys were staying, just to meet them and interact with them, get a picture, get an autograph, just hang out, anything I could. And the story goes that I did it so much that a few of the guys actually got to know me really well, and a few of my friends at that time who were also wrestler stalkers. And it wasn't really a thing about I thought I could do it. It was just one day we were at a show in England, and the guy behind the ring happened to be this guy who ran the only wrestling school at that time in the country, and just invited us to come down. And we were like, yeah, we'll come down. We'll be a wrestler. Do you know what I mean? Just a wrestler for the day, have a laugh, have a bit of fun. And 30 years later, this is where I'm at.
I love that though, like the wrestler stalker thing. I mean, obviously, so many fans, they just loved, especially at that time period, like WWF and those guys. Who were some of the guys that you loved? Like, was it Davey Boy Smith or Bret Hart? Like, who's some of the guys you loved?
Obviously, I was a Hulkamaniac, wasn't everybody, right? Back in the
me
day.
Too. Hell
I
yeah.
cried when Earthquake sat on him on the Brother Love show. Do you remember that? And he teased retirement.
I legit still hate Earthquake to this day because of it.
Yeah. that caused me a few sleepless nights, believe it or not. But then from there, I sort of grew into more Razor Ramon, who I was a huge fan of, and I become known as Little Razor to a few of the guys back in the day, around WrestleMania 10 and 11, that sort of time frame, from just loving him so much, dressing in his clothes all the time and stuff like that, being seen by the actual wrestlers so much. I became Little Razor, which was really, really cool when you're a kid. Do you know what I mean? Other people, obviously Shawn Michaels for his work rate, but I was always a Razor Ramon fan, and my buddy Rob, he was the Shawn Michaels man. And then from there, you just graduate, don't you? I went to Jeff Jarrett for some reason. Obviously, he's an amazing worker.
Yeah, love
tremendous guy. Which there's a brilliant story about how it all came full circle in the end with Jeff in TNA and stuff like that. But it was just from there. It's just, I don't know who and why. It's just who you like, right?
Very true. And when you look at it, right, I mean, at that time period, like, you're impressionable, you like the guys, but you're right, it always kind of evolves. Like, oh, now I like this guy, now I like this, you know what I mean? It always kind of evolves, but you always go back. Like, you still love Hogan, but then you're like, but I like this guy. Like, I love when you and Jody Fleisch came around, like that time period, I loved AJ and Bryan Danielson, which are nothing like Hogan. I mean, the polar opposite of a Hogan, smaller guy that can work. So it's completely different when you start to, progress in your fandom, if you will, in wrestling.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a journey, isn't it? It's like anything. You grow up with these people, and they grow up with you.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? They may be a bit older than you and stuff, but you just feel that you know them so well. Oh, here we go.
Yes, there you go.
Sorry, the signal's terrible around here.
And it's interesting, like you said, like, you think you know the guy so well, and you become fans, you like stalk them and stuff, which is awesome, which is so cool. But then you actually get in the business and you become a wrestler. Like, that's got to be like crazy, because it's almost like you made it into existence.
Yeah, it still blows my mind to this day. I've never ever dreamed of becoming a wrestler myself. Obviously, it's amazing that I have, and I'm so thankful for it. But yeah, it just wasn't a thing. It's not like you could go to school one day and then just say, "Oh, I'm going to be a wrestler," and they're like, "You go do that." It's just one of those things that just happened, and happy days.
So when you first get in, what year is it about? Is it like early 2000s or is it late 90s when you finally get in?
95 I started. 95 I started in the school, and yeah, it was tough. You know, like the guy who ran the school was not the most reputable person in the UK. In fact, he only started running the school because he was blackballed himself. So in order for him to keep wrestling, he took the initiative, which is smart on his part, to open his own school and run his own show so he could still wrestle as well. And obviously he was buying the ring for that purpose as well. And yeah, it's just luck, timing, all that kind of stuff. And it's been a hell of a ride, you know, and I hope it's not over yet. I've done a few things in my career which people will read about in the book, which you'll be shocked at, you know. Like you say, a lot of people maybe don't know me as much anymore because that was quite a while ago. But I'm still going strong, and there's so many stories, even up until, you know, now, which, you know, you can read that is just, it's still happening. There's still good times going on, and there's still a lot of fun to be had there in the life of the Wonder Kid.
Love that. So when you are like coming up, right, and obviously Jody Fleisch is there, is that like your, you know, like when they marry guys together, they wrestle a lot and they go, was that kind of the guy for you that they put together and you guys would wrestle the most?
It was literally just a case. I was at the school a little bit just before Jody, I think a year, maybe two, before he came. And then he only stayed for like a year or so, and then he left. But I think the general consensus was, oh, this guy can jump around a bit like this guy can jump around in the ring, which not many people were doing back then. Yep. We'll just put them together. So it sort of started a little bit in Hammerlock, and it wasn't until we got out that, again, the same thing, like, oh, you know him from here, we'll just put you together, you guys might be out of a good match, and then it just gelled.
When you're there, right, and you guys are doing like those crazy moves, where does that come from? Like, where's the genesis of a lot of the stuff that you guys were doing? Where are you getting that from?
Can you hear me?
Yep, I got you.
Okay, cool. Sorry. I don't know. I honestly couldn't tell you. It's just creative. It's like anything. A songwriter will sit down and write a song. An actor would draw from his previous experiences in life and stuff like that, or it will just come naturally. And I think for us, it was just a natural thing. A lot of it went on feel. And yeah, I could tell you that, you know, 9 times out of 10 we'd be in the ring and we'd sort of be on a level where we'd know what to do next, rather than having it planned out. This. And a lot of it included the crowd reactions as well. You should be able to just take them on that journey. If things aren't going right, you should be able to change course. So yeah, I think it's just a natural thing. It's just one of those things that's there between 2 people or however many people. Do you know what I mean? Magic happens.
How do you start getting like noticed and booked in the United States? Obviously CZW, ROH, and then eventually, I mean, TNA, but IWA Mid-South. Like, how did you guys get noticed as far as getting booked here in the States?
Well, again, it goes back to the start of the internet when there was all chat rooms. Do you remember them? MSN chat room.
Oh,
so
God, yeah.
And tape traders. You remember that? Tape trading?
Yep.
So that was people connecting from all over the world via just sharing videotapes of like wrestling from all over the world and stuff. And our particular case was a couple of wrestling fans who were tape traders, and they were tape trading with someone in America and also on MSN Messenger with this person. And it turned out that he was running a show. So he was like, oh, I'll book your guys for the show. And it was just as simple as that. I don't even think they saw our work or anything. It was just these guys gave him the hard sell on we're really, really good. Plus, it's also cool to have some British guys on the show in America, right? Because it looks more international for the company that's running the show.
Yep.
And yeah, it was just like that. And then when these videotapes started getting around a little bit in America just before we got there, then people sort of realized, oh wow, these two are actually really good. We'd like to use them as well. So it sort of snowballs in a way. People see you at a live show, and then maybe they're a promoter or a wrestler themselves, and you get recommended to other people, and it just went from there. It was tough though, because without the internet, it wouldn't have happened, just because we were smaller guys.
Definitely. And I feel like the term trailblazer, and obviously it's a part of the book too. You're like a British wrestling trailblazer, but you really were, if you think about it, because Will Ospreay, right? He's the big star today. You were kind of Will Ospreay before Will Ospreay was even around.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a big compliment, because Will's obviously, in my opinion, the best in the world. He's absolutely fantastic. Yes. Yep. And I love seeing him do what he does. But yeah, like, we were the prior generation to him. And he wrote a little something in my book, as did a lot of wrestlers, which was nice when I just contacted him. And I said to all of these guys, just write whatever you want, send it to me, and I'll put it in the book. No editing or anything like that. And he sent me a really nice little quote to put in there, which was really humbling, if you know what I mean. But yeah, you could go back to our stuff that we were doing in like 2002. And writing this book, I've gone back and watched a lot of my old matches, and I'm really, really happy to say that a lot of it still holds up in today's climate. Although wrestling's changed quite a bit, you can watch those matches now, and it would not look out of place in any wrestling today.
So you're obviously keeping up with Ospreay. You're saying he's the best in the world? No doubt about it. He's the best?
Yeah, for sure.
With being a trailblazer, right? I mean, that kind of doesn't go understated. I mean, that's a pretty big deal, because even like Zack Sabre Jr., I mean, there was a whole, slew of guys that came after you. Without you guys, who knows what happens after you? You know what I mean? Like, you guys have to happen for the next generation to happen.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much the whole point of the book. Like, I called it the unofficial legend with a question mark, right? Because the USP, the ultimate selling point of the book, I treat it as a court case where currently I'm the unofficial legend, right? But over my career, over these long 30 years, a few people have said to me along the way, not just myself, Doug Williams and Jody Fleisch, of course, as well, that we're legends and we are pioneers and we are trailblazers, right? So I just thought it would be a good concept to have this court case, which I set up at the start of the book. Then here's my case. You are the jury, the person reading the book. You read the whole book, you see what I've done, you see the points I make, and you make your own decision at the end of it, whether you really do think I am still the unofficial legend or indeed that elusive legend.
I love that. That's great. And I love USP, the ultimate selling point. That's such a, I'm going to steal that. I'm going to use it. That's great. What is the USP? That's perfect. But I got to say that.
I stole that, I'll be honest with you, from
from who?
The Apprentice. You know, Alan Sugar? I don't know if you know him in America, but you had Donald Trump do the Apprentice TV show. We have a guy called Alan Sugar who's like a big tycoon Mongol type of guy. And he done our version of The Apprentice, and he always goes on about the USP, the ultimate selling point.
Nice. I like that. I'm going to have to steal that from you, but from him. That's I like that. That's good. Now, you mentioned, obviously, Doug Williams, Jody Fleisch, and yourself. It definitely, the guys that would get booked here on the States, too, and kind of really get some eyeballs and really get people talking, getting people noticing. Would you say that's like the best of the class, is just as far as those guys, or are we missing some guys as far as the UK guys of that era?
Of our class, in my personal opinion, yeah, I would say it was us three, but not to diminish any of the talent in the UK, because it was just there was no exposure for anybody. That was the thing. We always have had the talent in England. We were renowned for being some of the best wrestlers in the world. And during that period of like the mid-90s to early 2000s, again,
no one really knew about it, until, your 2002, 2003, 2004. And it was bringing in the big independent American names to England to give us a bit of a rub off of them. And obviously, it worked amazingly for everybody, because someone like AJ came to England, which was awesome for him, because he gets to go to England and wrestle, right? And for whatever reason, foreign talent is always seen as bigger stars than the homegrown stars. Maybe because they see us all the time and we're not so special anymore. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
But us being in the ring with them and then producing like the type of matches that all of us were producing back then, it made us bigger stars. And then, of course, when we went to America, that just enhanced it further for our fans back in the UK, cementing our reputations.
Yeah, big time. Like you'd, for instance, wrestle like CM Punk in the US, but then AJ Styles, you'd wrestle him in the UK. It was like, you're huge here. Like, wow, that's so cool. Jonny Storm came in, and then AJ, he goes over there. It's like, wow, it's so cool. AJ came over here and wrestled. That's awesome.
Yeah, he was fantastic as well. He's up there in my top 3 in the best of the world as well. 100%. Fantastic.
Punker or AJ?
Both. That's
what do you
probably
think about
my top 3.
who's the third? AJ, Punk, and
Ospreay.
Oh, Ospreay. Okay, obviously you mentioned that before. Okay, yeah, interesting. Are you still keeping up with Punk today? Are you still watching him today?
Bits and bobs. He jumps around a lot now, so I can't keep track of him. But absolutely, yeah. If ever he's on TV, I'll watch him and stuff like that. And the same goes with AJ, of course. Just phenomenal talents, absolutely amazing. And it was a real honor to be in the ring with both of them guys, and see the other side of it, what you don't see on TV, because a lot goes into those guys.
Are you surprised that they're still going today? I mean, they're still wrestling today, and they've been basically at the top of their game for 20 plus years.
Well, I can't be too surprised because I'm still going, right?
True. Yeah, true. Yeah.
I'm just not making the money that them boys are making. Can you send a bit of that money my way and I'll be a happy chicken?
Exactly. They should be. Damn, right? The Trailblazer, nice. The guy that kind of set it down for everybody. He should be.
Maybe this book will sort me out a few bookings over in the States, eh?
Yes. Yes. So as far as the U.S., where's your favorite place you ever wrestled in the U.S. or even favorite promotion?
Oh, wow. CZW is really good to me. And we were there in the time, with John Zandig was running it, senior and stuff. Yes. So, again, it was like the forefront of the internet age. So that was a really great time. And I wrestled a lot for them. Ring of Honor was a little bit different. XPW, do you remember XPW?
Yes.
I think they're back now, aren't they? Yeah. They were really, really good for me. There's tons of stories I have about XPW. So much funny stuff. I probably can't get into it on here because it might be a little bit on the naughty side. But there's a lot to XPW, and they treated me really well. I couldn't really say one was better than the other, to be honest with you. It was just all a great experience, and it helped my career no end. And I wouldn't change it for a thing.
I remember you first seeing you because of ROH. They brought you in like the Road to the Title tournament. They brought you and Jody Fleisch in. That's like my first experience. And then TNA eventually booked you. So then I saw you in the TNA pay-per-view. So that's like, it was like, wow, I was like, these guys, are awesome. It's like a whole new generation of British talent. It's not like, the Regal and Finleys of the world that they're going to pound you. These guys are high flyers.
I think that was our calling card, right? Nobody else was really doing that, in England especially.
Yep.
So, we just took what we did over here and showed you guys what we could do, and it opened up a whole new world.
It's funny, now everybody does that over here, right?
Yeah, 100%. And that's, I guess, why people give us credit for that sort of style that's so in vogue over the past, however many years, because you look back to before us, the people who were doing that were probably like Dynamite Kid, Tiger Mask.
Yep.
I don't know. It'd be hard pressed for me to say any more names. I'm sure there was more, but who knows about them, right? That's the problem.
But it is so interesting. It's like they were watching you, or somebody was watching it because they took that style, and now so many people use it today, right? I mean, it's definitely not a copycat business. It kind of is, but it's one of those things where almost like an homage, or almost like they've watched you so much that they kind of just take some stuff from you.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's flattering in a way. I think a lot of wrestling nowadays, the only thing it really lacks, in my opinion, is the selling aspect of it as well. If you go back and watch, like, say, mine and Jody's match from CZW, probably the most famous match we're known for in the States, from the Best of the Best 2 tournament. Like I say, when I watched it, it still holds up now. And it's not just from one spot to another spot to another spot. If you watch it closely, there's selling, there's character. It's just a match that has everything in it. And I say in a lot of seminars that I do with aspiring wrestlers nowadays, selling is a lost art. Like, if you've just done this whole fantastic sequence and everything, you've hit it perfectly, it's absolutely amazing and looks brilliant. What's remembered from like 30 seconds of what you've done previously, because you're on to the next thing already? You got to give it time to breathe and let the audience digest it as well. You can go fast, but then it needs that breath for the fans and the wrestlers insider to get a bit of a breather and recompose yourselves into going to whatever direction you want to go next. There's many layers to wrestling.
Great advice. Selling is, I think so many people complain about it, but I realize, like, when you actually, like, a fan watching it, like, you realize the really good sellers are always like the top guys. They're always the great ones, like, that can really, really sell.
And they're probably the ones that have been around the longest. And that's probably why, that's how we came through. It's not to say you can't be taught it, but it's psychology as well. Like I say, that there's levels. There's so much that goes into what you see on a match on TV or whatever it is on the internet when you're watching it. You've got the match, you've got the psychology, you've got the selling, you've got the interaction with the fans. That's 5 things off the top, right? Things like running the ropes, how tiring it is to do things like that. You've got to be in shape. It's just a whole world to it. It's not an easy craft to do, but if you can learn that craft and do it right, it can be absolutely fantastic.
What's some of your favorite matches ever? Like, who are some of the favorite? Because I know, obviously, here in the States, I've seen the Jerry Lynn, the Juventud match. I mean, we were talking a while ago, but just great matches from the early and mid 2000s. What are some of your favorite matches that you had?
It was always a pleasure to wrestle Jerry Lynn. He was just an absolute class act inside and outside the ring. We did a lot of stuff in XPW.
Yep.
In America, oh wow. I hate to say, I don't really want to point out just one thing, because the whole experience to me, it was just, I look at it as a whole. Do you know what I mean? Rather than just that was really good or that was really bad and stuff. Every time I went over there and wrestled, it was an experience that I'll never forget. And so many wrestlers over there who just opened up their hearts to me and helped me along the way as much as they could. Johnny Cashmere from the Backseat Boys in a CZW. They were just so good to me. They didn't really know me or anything, but they took care of me, which is just, again, it's in the book. People from all over the world that you meet, you don't really know them, but they're just willing to help you and look after you, which it just blows my mind. I hope the scene's like that still now, to be honest with you. I mean, I know I've obviously forged a lot of relationships all over the world now, so I know people when I go there. But just for people who don't necessarily know people, you're just on a show with someone, but then it's like, oh, you can stay at my place tonight, or I'll take you to this show here tomorrow, or we can go hang out tomorrow or something. America's big for that, and I'm so appreciative of the American wrestlers and fans, because it was just brilliant. Every single time I went, I absolutely loved it. America is just awesome.
It is a great place to kind of, obviously expand your horizons as far as wrestling and really blow up, because obviously we're still talking about Jonny Storm today, 30 years later, as we hit the wind down here and we head towards the finish. when you look at it, who's like your favorite opponents? If you say, like, we could talk about the British wrestling scene as well. Would it be Jody Fleisch? Like, who's some of your absolute favorites?
It depends in what context, right? Doug and Jody, obviously, because we came up together and we've got that thing in the ring together, and we always will have. But then there's other people who you just gel with as well sometimes, you know, from all over the world. I would have to obviously say Jody, because we had the best matches and we were what we were doing back in the day and stuff like that. But me and Dougie smashed it out the park a load of times as well. It's just, wrestling's one of those things for me that you can either do or you can't. And when AJ came over here for the first time, never met the guy in my life. We wrestled that night and we killed it. There's a really great story. I'll tell you this one. This one's in the book. PJ Black, Justin Gabriel, right?
Yeah. Yep.
He was walking past the York Hall in London the night I was wrestling AJ Styles, right? He'd been out of wrestling for a while because he had some family things going on in his life. So he hadn't wrestled for a while. And he walked past the York Hall, it was called, and he heard the distinct sound of bumping in the ring. So he thought he'd just go in and investigate what was happening. And he looked inside, and as he looked in the building, in the ring was me and AJ Styles, and he said he stopped and watched that match. And it was so good, toot my own horn, that he decided to get back in wrestling just because of watching that match that night. I mean, that's just fate.
Right.
And look at him.
Powerful.
He went on to be an absolute superstar. He's killing it. He's fantastic as well. But what a cool thing, like, for him to tell me something like that. Just
awesome.
It's amazing, you know, like, just this little smart fan, before there were sort of smart fans, more super fan, running around pestering autographs for wrestlers and pictures, to be in the ring doing the thing and inspiring another generation. That for me is just crazy.
I always say, like we were talking about with Ospreay, it's like you were Ospreay before Ospreay, so I feel like you inspired Ospreay in that generation. Would you kind of put your stamp on that? You're agreeing with me on that one? Like you inspired the next generation of kind of great British talent?
I'd like to think so. I hope so. You decide. Read it in the book and you decide.
Yes. Yeah. So what's next for you? What do you got coming up?
Just same, really. I'm wrestling tonight. I wrestle it's not a full-time job over here because we haven't got a company that's like on TV and got millions and millions of pounds or dollars or anything. But as far as full-time goes in the UK and Europe, I'm out every weekend, still wrestling and going abroad. Meant to be in Qatar in February for QPW, who's
nice.
They just bring superstars after superstars to those shows. They're just manic and crazy. But obviously all of Europe, Germany, France. I'd like to get back to Japan at some point because Japan's somewhere very close to my heart as well after working for 01 and all those companies I did back in the day. Obviously America. Get me back to America. It's on you, John.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
I'm an official legend booker.
Yes.
Yes,
all right. I like that. Yes. I got to do that. I don't know why you haven't. You don't even yet. They got to get you back over here for sure. Maybe AEW. Cool, any interest in AEW?
I'd love to work for AEW. Yeah, 100%. I've been watching closely what they do and impressed with what they've done in such a short space of time. It's phenomenal. It's unheard of. So they're doing something right, 100%. Yeah, I know a lot of the guys in AEW as well. Jerry's an agent there now, isn't he?
Yes.
Jerry Lynn, which is fantastic. So yeah, I would love to make a little bit of more money and keep on wrestling as long as I can and keep up entertaining everybody.
Was there ever any interest in like WWE or NXT, anything like that?
Yeah, 100%. Always. My door is always open.
NXT, when they had that UK thing, did you ever have any interest in that, or what was going on with NXT as far as UK was concerned?
I have no idea. I never got asked to do anything for them, to be honest with you. Jody never got asked.
Weird.
Doug never got asked. Yeah, even as an agent or something like that.
Right, that would have made sense.
Or a trainer. You know, I'd have thought if they thought we were a little bit too old, then I think that's fair enough, you know, because we're older guys now. But just from the experience standpoint, I would have thought they would have maybe wanted some guys, not necessarily us, but, you know, some guys for that type of thing. But no, we never got asked is the simple truth.
Yeah, it's like a little bit confusing. I know, obviously, I think Johnny Saint and Robbie Brookside were a part of it, but it's weird that they didn't have other guys. I mean, you need more agents and more British talent. I think Johnny Moss maybe, but you need more.
Yeah. You see, they were the generation before us, Robbie Brookside and Johnny Saint.
Yep.
Johnny Moss was kind of around our time. But, it's kind of, we're that in-between gap, almost like a forgotten era in a way, just because it was the start of the internet and there was no exposure. And the guys, you know, just before us, no exposure whatsoever. It's crazy to think, you know. Yeah, but we're here now.
Yeah, definitely. I always just kind of wonder about that. Like, why the hell weren't you and Jody Fleisch a part of that? Even just like bring in like, hey, we'll just do a Legends match or whatever, or an agenting, or, you know, bring you guys in. It would have been good business.
Yeah, it's not because we wouldn't have wanted to. We would have loved to, and I'm sure I could say that on behalf of both those guys as well. Like,
right.
I think British wrestling is a dying art to a certain extent because our guys just retire one day. They just finish, you know. It's just like some of our greats would just pack up without you know, anyone even knowing about it. And it's such a shame because when these guys just retire, who's going to pass it on to the next generation? And we're the generation after them. So when we all go, who's going to pass it on after us? Everyone seems to be a little bit Americanized to a certain extent because it's what they mainly see on TV, which is awesome. But you're not going to stand out as a British wrestler just doing the same stuff that an American wrestler can do if you're just wrestling like the American guys, right?
Exactly.
Our whole thing was we blended the styles. We blended in British wrestling with American, Japanese wrestling all into one. So we were still different.
100%. You guys were the hybrid wrestlers kind of before that became popular, if you will, for sure. And you got to mention the book one last time, The Unofficial Legend, ? But I think should be exclamation point. Wonder Kid Jonny Storm, an unexpected professional wrestling journey, the British wrestling trailblazer. Where can everybody find you, follow you, and get the book?
Right, awesome. Well, we can get the book on Amazon right now. It's a bit of a weird coding, if you could put it in the link or something like that, but I'm sure you could search on Amazon, The Unofficial Legend, Jonny Storm, in the books department. That'd be awesome. Other than that, my social media is on Twitter is Wonder Kid Jonny, Jonny, Instagram Wonder Kid Jonny Storm, and of course Facebook Jonny.Storm.56. I've no idea why it's 56. I wasn't born in 1956. I'm not bloody 70 odd years old, not yet.
Yeah.
But you'll find me, man. But I just want to get this book out, and I really appreciate you, John, for doing this for me, mate, because like I said, I love the American fans, and I'd love to be back there sometime just to see you guys, or even just to sign a book or two for everyone.
Absolutely. Yeah, hell yeah.
I'll tell you where else we can get it, but it's from England, so it might be different for you guys, but it's there's a company called Big Cartel. You know them? Do you get that in America?
Yep.
Okay, so it's JonnyStorm.BigCartel.com, but I don't know how it will work in terms of getting the book to the States. So Amazon's probably your best bet.
Yeah, I was going to say the Big Cartel is a lot of good stuff, and you got a lot of cool stuff on there too. So not just the book. Check out some other stuff you have up on the Big Cartel as well.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you, Johnny. Thank you for all the time. Really appreciate it. And, of course, the British wrestling trailblazer himself, Jonny Storm. Thank you so much.
Pleasure, guys. I'll see you soon, all right?